I mean, I don't even know what to say after that one, everybody. You all watched the same game I watched. Yeah, wasn't quite the follow-up to the last game. Didn't build a winning streak, didn't really get much of anything going. Uh, dare I say, on a night in which all the lights weren't on at Climate Pledge Arena, the Kraken weren't really either. Is that too cheesy? I'm trying. I'm gonna have to try a lot, pull a lot out of my bag of tricks to try to make this uh, a fun and try to find the optimism for this post game live. It was a rough one. It was a really really rough game for a lot of reasons. We're gonna get into it all, of course, whether it's from the injury standpoint, lots of guys getting banged up in this one, the penalties that weren't called. That's obviously going, I think, to be a topic of conversation. And then just overall the intensity level, the energy level, the lack of scoring again. Made Jonathan Quick look like it was 2013. I didn't know that was possible, but the Kraken managed to do it in this one, unfortunately. I will say, though, however, as we kick off the Emerald City Hockey post game live here, there's one place that I fairly reasonably feel like I can say the lights are on, and that's over at Flatstick Pub. Like I said, I'm going to be trying tonight, folks. Yeah, no, I think I think this seems like a really good game to go and take advantage at that South Lake Union location, that dollar off beer. After the game, you just take and show your Kraken ticket there, get the dollar off your beer. I feel like this is one of those games where a lot of people might be interested in that. I think it's a good call. And hey, you know what? Maybe lights out mini golf like could be a thing, like black light mini golf. Like I actually think that could be like a fun idea. Like, they do it at bowling alleys. Flat Stick, if you're listening, maybe give it a shot. Everybody, maybe go over to Flat Stick, tell them Dylan from Emerald City Hockey sent you, and casually suggest some blacklight mini golf. I think that would be a lot of fun. All right, so I'm just gonna hop into the comment section here and let you guys kind of dictate where we start with things, because like I said earlier, there's a lot to get to in this one, none of which is really that great. Michael, what in God's name was that game? Horrific officiating, tons of Kraken injuries, continuation of scoring failures. Well, there we go. I guess we're starting with all of it. Yeah, so horrific officiating. I'm with Eddie on this one, right? How do you miss the Rangers bench taking a shot at Yanni Gourde? You miss that and don't call it. All right, I guess you can miss that. You're never expecting that to happen, so you're not looking for it. I want to know how there wasn't more punishment on Chris Kreider for cross-checking Yanni Gourde when Yanni Gourde had already been cross-checked by Adam Fox. His helmet is off. I mean, Chris Kreider cross-checks him towards the boards without his helmet on, and if he's like a foot further, or if Yanni Gourde's just, tall, right? Yanni Gourde's not the tallest guy. If Yanni Gourde's a foot taller, his head without a helmet is going clear into those boards, and we're dealing with a very, very serious situation, right? And the refs were just like offsetting, let's just move on. And that's the part that really sticks with me. I get missing the bench, and if you're not going to be able to go to review to be able to pick up that penalty, it's unclear whether or not they're allowed to do that. I think at the very least, you have to say if a player has no helmet, they've already been cross-checked, and the refs were there. They knew he had already been cross-checked. No helmet, already been cross-checked. Somebody flies in and does a second cross-check to Yanni Gourde's back with his helmet off right around the boards there. That's an extremely dangerous play. I'm not even saying it has to be a game misconduct that guy's got to get thrown, but at the very least, he's got to get more than also what Yanni Gourde gets on the other end. So that was abysmal officiating. Not to mention just the way they decided. I'm great with how they handled the lights being out in the one corner, the team switching sides the way they did at the 10-minute marks of every period. I think that's the perfect solution, right? Nobody gets an unfair advantage of being able to play in shadow. Let everybody know, though, maybe like that would, they obviously let everybody on the ice know. Maybe just give a quick, you got a mic, just announce that to the arena so everybody else knows. The tons of Kraken injuries, Michael, I mean, there's a lot. So obviously the biggest one is going to be Andre Burakovsky. It feels like we just got him back, and already we're going to be dealing with another serious situation with him as he gets, Trouba boarding call. He hits him well after, Andre Burakovsky's gotten rid of the puck. Burakovsky goes into the boards awkwardly. He's holding. I don't know whether it's, it's all speculation, and we're not going to know for a while. Tomorrow, midday at the earliest, as they're going to have to do some pretty serious imaging, I would imagine. But whether it's collarbone, separated shoulder, dislocated shoulder, some sort of upper arm thing, who knows what it is, but it looked very serious. And the fact that Berkey wasn't able to come back in this game, that's also not a very good sign for him either. And then just, Belmar having to miss a couple shifts because he got hurt. Jaden Schwartz, it looked like that ankle at some point was bothering him again, and he had to come off and kind of walk around in the tunnel. That was rough. And then Brian Dumoulin dealing with something as well, having to miss a couple shifts. So definitely not a good night on the injury front for the Kraken. And then the continuation of scoring failures. Like I said, you made Jonathan Quick look like, I didn't know he was still capable of looking, to be perfectly honest. And I'm going to go a step further. The scoring issues were one thing, but I feel like in this one, it's easier to point the finger at the fact that, look, the Kraken went away from volume shooting. This feels very different than those first couple games that they were dropping and they couldn't score, because in those games, they were winning the shot battle. Right. I mean, they were having 70 plus shot attempts, all this stuff. In this game, you played a second period, you had 2 shots on goal. The Kraken just didn't exist offensively. It wasn't like, oh, we couldn't finish or we were unlucky or whatever. It was just the Kraken just decided we're just not like gonna press the issue, I guess. That was what was so surprising out of this, and why I think this one feels worse than maybe some of those earlier games when they were also not scoring, just because in this one they just didn't feel like they had it really from the start of the second period through the rest of the game. There wasn't a lot of life there. And I know these are like big things that I'm throwing around and it's pretty negative, but it's true, right? I think we can all kind of agree on that, having watched this game, that the Kraken, they didn't have a ton of life in this one through that second and third period. So that's some tough stuff. Braun, there's lots of garbage throughout that was directly hockey related, but I got to say that we just looked bad at pretty much every phase of the game, in my opinion. I'm with you. Defense in this one was really, really rough. So we had the Justin Schultz, Brian Dumoulin pairing doing their thing again, and their thing is poor defense. And that's obviously not what we want to see. I'm also going to go on the record and say this is the worst defensive game Matty Beniers has ever had at the NHL level, potentially at any level of hockey. What I saw from Matty Beniers, it was really like I wouldn't recognize him as Matty Beniers if he wasn't wearing his jersey, right? If he wasn't wearing number 10, I wouldn't have never guessed that was Matty Beniers. Puck watching, puck chasing. I mean, he was just out of position all night long. I think 2 of these goals you could kind of point fairly like right there to him. I think they might have both been the Panarin goals, actually, that you can just kind of say like those are on Matty, or maybe it was the Lafreniere and then the first Panarin one. But I just think Matty was just losing things in the slot and net front, and he looked rough in this one. So yeah, there was the offensive issue, not pushing that, and then you have the defensive issues on top of it. It was rough. Fusion Mix, someone please get these boys boxing classes. Yeah, it was a little weird after all that was made after the Ty Cartier, sticking up for his teammate in the last game, right? And then in this one, you have Berkey go down on an illegal hit, right? Trouba gets a penalty for it. It was not a legal hit. Berkey has to leave the game. You have that situation. Nobody really goes and addresses that with Jacob Trouba. Interesting. Then you have the Yanni Gord situation. Nobody really went and addressed that. And then finally, you have Jared McCann going out there throwing hands. He's the one guy who can score consistently on this team. He's the one guy whose hands need to be protected at all costs. And he's the guy who's got to go out there and start punching a helmet. Like, are you kidding me? So that is very, very strange, especially after the way the last game went and what we saw from Ty Cartier and what a big deal that was for everybody. This felt very, very strange. I don't know what was going on with that. Lindsay, well, that sucked. Yeah. Schultz, that was poop emoji. Berkey can't catch a break. Time to get some team bonding on a road trip. I agree. I think the road trip, maybe will help after this one. It was bad. What a weird, stupid game. I like that. Rain, that's pretty well said. George, I've said it once. I've said it twice. I'll say it again. John Hayden. I will tell you this. I don't think all that stuff's going down if John Hayden's in the lineup. I think John Hayden probably comes through somewhere and makes something happen in a way that we we didn't see tonight. Like I was just talking about Fusion Mix, Hayden, and Megna incoming. It's possible, especially now would be a good time to maybe ease Brian Dumoulin out of the lineup for a game or two, let him reset. Obviously, we don't know the extent of his injury. He came back to play more, so I'm guessing it's not that bad. But I do think that, having Megna come in for a game or two for Brian Dumoulin, maybe that'll help him reset and kind of, he can play better, right? If we're just being honest. Yeah. Michael, it's time for right. I don't care about their stupid plans. It's time, and the Kraken desperately, desperately need a spark. I'm with you, Michael. I think I would call up Shane Wright. I would have him on a wing. We'll probably get into this a lot more on the deep dive on Monday, RJ and I. And obviously, we'll hear from RJ in a little bit. I see somewhere down here in the comment section, you're saying this is the longest it's taken for the Kraken to open up the locker room for the media to go in there, which understandable probably. As for Shane Wright, I think there's a couple reasons why it won't happen. They really want him to get the seasoning and the ice time down at Coachella Valley. I think they're going to stick to that plan, especially because they have that however many games or days, that 30-day window or whatever, where all those guys that they sent down through waivers are free to be called up and sent back down without having to clear waivers again. And I think they would want to go ahead, give Shane Wright that full month in Coachella Valley, let him work on all that stuff. And here you could call up a Cole Lind if you feel like you need more scoring, call up a John Hayden if you feel like you need that physical presence, and not have to worry about losing them on waivers mid-season, where you're far more likely to lose them on waivers than you were at the end of training camp. So I think the Kraken would take advantage of the fact that they can bring those guys up and send them back down later on without having to lose them. I think that's probably the direction the Kraken are going to go. And I would guess that, Cole Lind, if they want scoring, Cole Lind would be the guy. If they want a physical presence, which I could definitely see after this game, John Hayden is going to be that player for them. But I'm all for having Shane Wright come up, and I'm all for having Shane Wright play on the wing. Just get used to the speed of the NHL. Don't worry about the pressures and the responsibilities of being a center. He's going to play stellar defense even on the wing, right? And the Kraken could use that. So I think that's certainly something the Kraken should start considering as we move into next month and we get past that waiver window. Let's see. B, well, that was a game unless you want to be generous. Yeah, I think that's what it was. Brittle Glory, if nobody got me, at least the Firebirds do. I know we all kind of picked the wrong game to watch, didn't we? We should have been watching the Firebirds tonight. Last I saw, they were up 3-0 with a Shane Wright goal there. So some good stuff there. Let's see, back to scoring one goal from Pablo. I know we were so close. We were on our way out of this. Come on. Okay, so Drieger did get the shutout with the Firebirds. B, thank you for letting us know. Lindsay, the Kraken have given Grubauer 3 goals for in 4 games played. Meanwhile, Joey has 8 goals for in 2 games of goal support. Is Joey the key? It's the same thing as last year, but with Martin Jones instead of Joey Decord, right? Like, I don't know what it is, but Philip Grubauer is just cursed when it comes to goal support on the Seattle Kraken. So I don't know if it's a Grubauer thing, if it's a backup netminder thing, but this is exactly what we saw last year with Martin Jones. There was large stretches of the season where Martin Jones, Philip Grubauer were playing the same, but Martin Jones was racking up all the wins just because he was getting goal support on the days he happened to be starting in net. They weren't really playing that differently, those 2 goaltenders, but that was the difference as far as the wins and losses. And I'm with you, Lindsay. It sure seems like through 6 games into the season or 5 games into the season, that's where we're at again. And I don't want to be there, but that's what it seems like. Coop, Kraken stay shooting low, need the skill to shoot higher. They have the skill. They clearly must be. Well, really, no. Really, wasn't the problem, Coop, really that they were shooting mid, right? I think we could probably agree on that. The problem is that they were shooting mid, because if you shoot low more, you generate rebounds. And we saw that a lot in the last game, and they used that beautifully. I mean, there was tons of rebounds. There was chaos in front of Ranta. I mean, they were able to get a lot of things going offensively. It was able to build confidence, drive energy, really put Carolina back on their heels with them shooting low. It was just that they were generating rebounds. This one, they're shooting mid. You're shooting too high to get those rebounds off the pads, but you're not really having to make the goaltender extend in any way, or you're not taking advantage of, when they drop into butterfly, all that room upstairs. So I'm with you in the sense that they need to shoot higher, or they need to shoot lower. But they need to pick one and kind of stick with it, is what I'm going to say. Go check yourself. Well, at least they'll practice before the next one. Let's figure it out again. Obligatory blaming the lights for forcing Gru's eyes to adjust too much. It's a really interesting situation. I think, again, as with most of this year, a lot of these goals you can just kind of directly point to, with the exception of the Kako goal. You can just point to poor defense in front of Gru. I mean, that first Panarin goal, of all the people on the Rangers to just leave wide open and give a full second and a half to control the puck, walk in and pick a spot, you're going to let our Terry Panarin do that? Are you kidding me, Kraken? Come on. Of course he scored in that situation. So that one was rough. I'll give the Kako goal was on Gru. That one leaked through, gets behind him. He's got to kind of squeeze that one. He's got to be able to stop that one, keep it in front of him. But the other ones, like I said, I mean, he got really bad defense in front of him for those last two. So it's really tough that Gru's been having to deal with that this year. This game was straight up cursed from Jake. It certainly wasn't not cursed. It wasn't good. That's what we'll stick with. Edward, was the last game Kraken doing well or just Hurricanes playing bad? They got smacked by Colorado tonight. They also lost to the Ducks, I believe, the Hurricanes. So the Hurricanes have issues. If you're a Patreon member, over at patreon.com/Emerald City Hockey, we did a around the NHL preview. And I said, I think the Carolina Hurricanes are actually kind of frauds this year. So maybe I'm on to something. I really thought, though, the Kraken were doing things well. I thought they were playing well through the Blues game and through the Avalanche game. I thought they were really building towards something. They had those fundamentals I was on here shouting about. And I thought it was just all finally like the dam had broken. They were getting puck luck. They were building confidence. Everything was good in that Hurricanes game. But this was the lowest energy game I think the Kraken have ever played. Like this one, they just died. Like, I don't know what was going on. It was wild. Rock Todd, we're soft. Thought Alexiak would protect with these cheap shots. Maddie looks slower. I mean, Maddie is heavier, so it's possible that he's a little slower. It doesn't excuse, really, for me. It's just like his defense is just not there right now, or at least it wasn't tonight. Okay. Anyone else bewildered by the fact that they didn't swap nets before that power play in the second and instead swapped halfway through it? The power play started almost exactly at 10 minutes. I don't get it. I don't get it either, B, other than the refs were really trying to stick to that first stoppage after 10 minutes. Like, that's the only thing I can think of. And they really stuck to that, even if it didn't really make sense to do so. And because I hate that. You can't change a power play like that. And I know this is kind of an unprecedented situation, but the ice quality is completely different. The way guys are setting up could be different. Like, there's a lot going on there. I wasn't a fan of that either. Rebecca, to be honest, I considered turning it off in the third, but figured it would be more confusing to catch up on whatever weird stuff went down. I mean, I don't know. I guess there was some of the fireworks there later on in this one, and it did turn out to be some of that. These sponsorship segues are crazy, Dylan. You're welcome. I hope you mean that in a good way, Nicole. You probably do. Jake, I've played Blacklight mini golf. Please tell us about it, because probably more interesting than the second period of this game. I'll stand by that. Andy, overall, the Kraken are a soft team right now. I know there are examples, Cartier, Canner, Yanni, of the opposite, but they get pushed around too much and bullied more often than not. Yeah, I mean, I guess so, right? I ranted about them not having a response to that whole situation, whether it was the Yanni situation, the Berkey situation, whatever it was. I'm generally not one of the people who really feels like, okay, you have to go out there and you have to hit some sort of quota of X amount of hits and whatever to try to prove you're tough and grind things out. That's playoff hockey time. Regular season, you don't need to be doing that. But they needed energy. And if energy was going to come through somebody being physical, through standing up for their teammates, through just going out there and laying somebody out, even if in the second period, even if it was a penalty, you just go out there and you lay somebody out, you get a roughing call, an interference call, whatever. If that was going to wake up the Kraken for the rest of that period, it would have been worth it. Because at that point, you're looking at a 1-1 game. You're not shooting the puck. You're not getting shots. You're certainly not getting anything through to quick. You might as well have, right? Like, I don't know. They needed energy, and they needed somebody to kind of be the life of the team. And so, yes, if that's going to come from them being a more physical team, I guess that's what it'll take. I don't know that it has to. I think that can just come from, kind of an energy guy. Like Yanni, he's not always the toughest guy, but he's at least energy out there. Brandon Tanev, this is where you really miss Brandon Tanev. Oh, yeah. Yes, exactly. What the hell, Kreider? Unacceptable. Kreider deserves a suspension regardless. Well, here's the thing: because something catastrophic did not happen when he cross-checked Yanni Gord without his helmet on, he will not get a suspension because that's the way sports leagues think about this stuff. They don't want to think about the worst case scenario because it's uncomfortable and it's a bad liability thing. And you certainly don't want anything written in an email or any sort of paper trail around any sort of worst case scenario for liability reasons later. So my guess is they're not going to do anything to Chris Kreider. Unfortunately. Let's see. Ricky, bring up the kids. This combination of forwards and D is not working. Stop trying to revive last year's season. Could be a write-off if they don't have a good road trip. We are in dangerous territory of falling into the year one problem where, yeah, you drop too many games early and the next thing you know, you're out of it by Thanksgiving. And yeah, the season does become a write-off by the new year where you're just way too far out of it. Yeah, I'm with you. If the road trip goes poorly, you're starting to really look at a situation like that again. And oh man, I really did not want to have to deal with that again. Yes. At least Shane Wright had a goal in CV. You're very right, Lindsay. That is a lone bright spot in a unlit hockey game is what that is. Sorry. I wish I had more like, oh, here's a box of light bulbs like Eddie Olczyk had. Yeah. Is there any mechanism for the Kraken to file a complaint with the league for the horrible officiating? From Absurdly Sane. I don't believe so. I don't believe that there's like an official protesting process the way there is in Major League Baseball. I know you're a big baseball fan, so I don't know if you're kind of referring to something similar to that. I can't remember an instance of that ever happening. There has been instances like with the Rangers when Tom Wilson kind of just picked up Panarin and dropped him on his head, where they came out and they were very public about what they felt like, was not enough of a suspension or not enough from the Department of Player Safety, and the Rangers kind of had a strongly worded public statement about that, and they got fined, and the league really kind of came down on them. So my guess would be, if there is, it's a very behind closed doors process. But yes, I don't think that there's an official kind of protest process in the NHL the way there is in Major League Baseball. Yeah, as everybody the missed cross checks were so bad, and then it took them ages to actually announce the penalties. So weird. It wasn't the best officiated game. Now, what I will say with when it comes to the officials is after every game, the officials do kind of get like a report card, and they get a sort of like a debrief from the NHL, from the officiating office. And I have to imagine for this one, there's going to be a lot of things brought up that in regards to how the officiating went down in this game. I will give it to them that they handled the lights situation as best as they could. And I thought that their solution was very fair, and it was the common sense solution. That doesn't always happen. I want to, give props where props are due, but the rest of the game was pretty poorly officiated, and not even in the way we're used to, right? Where it's like, wow, they're really just calling, hooks on one team and not on the other. They're missing all these calls in this end. No, I mean, those were bigger deal situations where you had things going down. I don't know if they were just trying to keep the game under control, and so they didn't want to punish one team more than the other for like the Yanni Gord situation. But if that was the case, I mean, it didn't work. Although I guess it kind of did, but the Kraken, did that themselves just because they weren't they didn't do anything. Coop, doesn't Trouba have a rep for stuff like this? Yes, he does. I mean, a couple years ago in the playoffs, took a shot at Sidney Crosby in the slot. Puck wasn't around, if I'm remembering right, and it was kind of a high hit on Crosby. So yeah, Trouba does have a little bit of a reputation there. Cameron, was Yanni ejected? I do not believe Yanni Gord was ejected. I'm going to look right now. Oh, well, they must have, because he had 16 penalty minutes. So yeah, I guess Yanni Gord was ejected for that, which is, I mean, again, if you're game managing, I get it. But if that's the case, Chris Kreider should have been ejected too. There's zero reason for Chris Kreider to be able to finish playing that game and for him not to, for Yanni Gord not to. That's ridiculous. That takes it to a whole new level. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. I thought it would be a step back this year, probably a top 15 pick this year, but this is kind of bad when the Ducks and Blackhawks look better than us from Fusion Mix. They do kind of look better than us, right? Those aren't good teams. They're not deep teams. They don't have a lot going for them as far as talent, right? The Kraken on paper, like light years more talent on this Kraken team than the Ducks or Blackhawks have. However, the Ducks and Blackhawks play with energy. They stay in games, they keep games close, and they can score. Now, they allow a bunch, but they can score. And right now, I would take that kind of play style and at least the fact that those games have energy, they have young players those fan bases are rooting for. I kind of see where you're coming from, Fusion Mix. I don't think you're off at all there. Daniel, why was McCann the one that was fighting? He should never have to fight. Yeah, he shouldn't. I'm with you. It's ridiculous that he was the person fighting in this one. Absolutely ridiculous. The fact that Alexiak doesn't fight and we have our leading scorer fighting our battles is flat out ridiculous from Coop. Well, there we go. We got some more there. Sarah, I didn't think they have life. They were just severely outplayed. Oh, you think they did have life. They were just severely outplayed. I don't know. There was times where it didn't feel like they were outplayed. It felt like they were letting themselves be outplayed. And I guess that's what I mean from them not having life. They lacked energy. They lacked kind of getting, it takes a lot to be outplayed and to the point where you only have 2 shots on goal in an entire period. Right. And the Kraken had that situation in the second period. And then in that third period, before the Yanni Gord stuff went down, that team, they were barely getting it out of the zone. They weren't pressing anything offensively. Even the announcers, right? Was that the flattest you've ever heard John Forsland and Eddie Olczyk call a Kraken game? They were reaching at the end there just to kind of try to stay engaged. And it kind of looked like the players were too. So I don't know. It was a rough one. Ricky Spanish, which by the way, love that. Love the name, love the avatar. I know what you're going for there. Kraken cannot score. The Carolina game shouldn't even count. Looks like they just let in 6 goals against every team. That is part of the problem with the Hurricanes looking as bad as they do. It makes that game feel a lot less special for us, doesn't it? Yeah, I'm with you. The Kraken, they need to score more. We know that. We've known that all season. Just gotta hope that they could get it going. Jake, I think it's time to call up Hayden. We need an answer in games like this. McCann should not have to be the one stepping up and fight. Agree, Jake. We talked about that a little earlier. Michael, leaving Panarin that open is just unacceptable for any NHL player, period. It is, but you could leave Ryan Reeves that open and you might be able to get a save off of it. You're going to leave Panarin that wide open. You're just giving the Rangers a goal. Lindsay, God bless our Sioux boys, Ty Cartier and Jared McCann for dropping the gloves and standing up for the team. They shouldn't have to be the ones to fight, but gotta love their heart. Definitely. Now, let's RJ's here. Let's bring RJ in. Hopefully the audio works and everything's fine this time. But beyond that, RJ, we've talked about just about everything there is to talk about this game, which is just to say we talked about how bad it was. What was the mood like after this one? Because this was bad.
Well, I'll start with it took a long.
Oh, you're quiet again.
No, come on.
No.
Earlier today.
Hold on. I'll turn you up on my end.
All right.
That's better. That's better.
Yeah.
When you're closer to the camera, it's better.
All right. Well, here I'm up closer now.
All right.
We tested this multiple times today.
I know.
Well, you know what? That's fitting, right? Because
yes.
Vibes in this building were just weird all day. It wasn't just that. There was a technical glitch with the lineups coming out before the game. There were big printer issues for PR. It felt like everything was going wrong and going weird in this game. And of course, when the light issue happens, then all bets are off for this one. It was just a weird hockey game and the bad side of weird. But you asked me after the game kind of what the mood was like, right? Well, I'll start by saying this was one of the longest that it's taken for them to open up the locker room. So I'm sure Paxtall was saying something to his team, addressing them. Again, no clue what, but you can probably imagine what it was like in the locker room after that game. These were some of the quickest post-game player interviews 3 questions long for both players. Like, very fast. Just the lights, what was that like? The chippiness in the game, and like one other question. And then Hackstall's was only like 5 questions long too. It was very short in that regard. So definitely, kind of I'm trying to describe the atmosphere, but just kind of trying not to make anyone more angry or step on anyone's toes and get the hell out of there. But we did get some interesting takeaways from the players and from Hackstall.
Yeah, I mean, tell us about him.
All right, so we start off with Jared McCann. He did say the light issue was, kind of crappy, having to switch sides every 10 minutes or so. He felt like it kind of messed with the momentum. That when you build some momentum, all of a sudden you got to switch sides, and that's a whole thing. And it was definitely unusual. But he made sure not to use it as an excuse. He did say, look, both teams have to play on it. It's on us. We've got to be better. He started with that. It's not an excuse. But, I think there is, the reality of that issue, that it's a different type of hockey game. It throws some people off. And yes, it happens to both teams, but it's just hard to get into a rhythm. And the Kraken especially, too, are a team that I feel like needs to get into that rhythm, maybe more than other teams. And then on the fight, too, because I don't know, I'm sure you guys have talked about this, Jared McCann dropping the gloves with Vincent Trocheck. And I asked him about the fight. He did confirm that it was in response to the hit on Brian Dumoulin. He felt like Trocheck left his feet a little bit and said, I wasn't going to jump him. I asked him off the face-off, do we want to square up? And he said yes, and, end of story there. And then as far as the updates from Dave Hackstall, he was asked about the Trouba hit. He said there was nothing egregious on, he didn't see anything egregious on it. Started off saying he didn't get the best look at it too, but said, you could make an argument about whether it was late or not. He said, I'm not going to go there. I didn't see anything egregious on the hit. Do I like it? No, we lost a player out of it, but that's kind of where we're at. So we didn't really go any further on that, understandably. The real bad news, though, and I don't know if people have seen this on Twitter yet, but Dave Hackstall with some bad news on Andrei Burakovsky said he's going to wait till morning to give a clearer, more definitive update, but it sounds like it's not something that's going to be short-term.
All right. Well, we were kind of fearing that. I think everybody was speculating that, both on Discord and in the comment section here. It's kind of, it's going to be tough, especially after last season and what he had to go through there. Definitely less than ideal. RJ, I get it. Okay, McCann steps up for Dumoulin. Again, McCann probably the last person you want fighting on this team, given his scoring prowess. I'm still shocked that nobody stood up for Berkey. Like, why did nobody go after Trouba?
And look, I know Jacob Trouba's a tough customer. I know it's not going to be pleasant to drop the gloves and go square up and fight with him. I get all that. But there wasn't even really an attempt, not even to like finish a check extra hard. Nobody going after Jacob Trouba after that hit. And I didn't like it. I didn't like seeing that. And, especially after the last game where good on Ty Karche for standing up for his teammates there. But, that a rookie has to go do that. I know some people were saying, maybe should he have to be the guy to go do that? Well, certainly. I mean, it seemed like, Yanni obviously started some stuff by the bench there over with the Rangers and everything. He got the misconduct. But, there is that hit that hurt Dumoulin, and somebody's got to step up and answer for it. Clearly, Jared McCann thought enough of it that he felt, okay, I need to go do this because nobody else was going to. And that's a bad sign. You need somebody in that lineup who's not Jared McCann of all people stepping up and taking that fight. Again, I don't want to criticize McCann too much because, he's stepping up for a teammate. I can't criticize that, but he should not have to be the guy to go do that.
No, he shouldn't. And then also with, Dumoulin gets banged up on that hit. We know about Berkey. I mean, Belmar misses a couple shifts in the third period of this one. Jaden Schwartz gets, kind of re-injures his ankle at one point, it looks like, and he goes over and has to walk it off in the tunnel there. Any updates on anybody else injury-wise?
No updates on anyone else injury-wise. I think we'll just hear more tomorrow morning. Hackstall's going to give an update on Burakovsky tomorrow morning. Maybe some other stuff will come out as well. But yeah, lots of guys getting banged up in this one. And the Rangers, I think, feeling like they could take some liberties with the Kraken. I mean, they were running around in the ice all night. I mean, it's not a good situation. I think on the one hand, they know they're probably not going to have to answer for any of that stuff as far as a fight or squaring up or anything like that. And two, they're not really going to have to answer for it, based on power play goals. The Kraken had a big opportunity at 5-on-3, which I'm sure you probably already talked about, a chance to take the lead in the game at 1-1, and they didn't get a shot on goal in the 5-on-3, albeit short.
Yeah, we actually hadn't even gotten to the fact that they were scoreless on the power play again, RJ, because there was so much other stuff to talk about. One thing I want to talk about with you is officiating. Now, lots of criticism of the officiating in this one, I think justified and different from how we normally criticize officiating, right? The whole Yanni Gord situation, I don't know what kind of replays you were able to see, but the fact that he gets interfered with somebody from the Rangers bench, right? Cooley interferes with him there. He gets cross-checked from behind as he's dealing with that from Adam Fox, loses his helmet, then gets cross-checked again by Chris Kreider, gets up, kind of jumps Kreider. I mean, Yanni Gord gets it looks like, a major or something, misconduct,
Out of that,
right?
you got 4 minutes
Right.
for roughing or various things like that, and 10-minute misconduct.
Yeah, he gets the misconduct. Nothing on Chris Kreider though. No call on the bench reaching out and Cooley hitting Yanni Gord there. Anything from the Kraken on that one, because that's like a really ridiculous situation from an officiating standpoint.
No, actually, no comments on that whole thing. It was more kind of focused on the Trouba hit, but that whole fiasco, I thought it was difficult. There are a lot of different elements of it. Here's my understanding, because I thought I got a pretty good look at it too, and I got to watch some replays here. So you have Yanni Gord with the hit on Hedel that kind of starts the whole thing, which clean hit maybe a little bit high, but the Rangers are like, okay, we can't get started here, right? And so then Fox comes back after him, hits him there, and at that point, Yanni's by the bench. On my look at one replay. It looked to me like Yanni started the stuff with the bench. To me, that's just on the one look. Maybe it was different to you. And then at that point, I think it's Fox or someone comes in, hits him, knocks his helmet off. And the one that was particularly egregious to me, though, was Kreider with hitting Yanni in the back, close to the boards like that. A helmetless Yanni Gord, by the way. That could have been a lot worse. If he's a few inches close to the boards, that is very, very bad. And that's where I was thinking that Kreider would have gotten, at least the 10-minute misconduct that Yanni got. But no, it appears he didn't. I saw him still in the penalty box. We got penalties, but not, misconduct for that one. So, yeah, I don't understand why the calls went the way they did. I mean, I get it ended up being 5-on-5. That, there was a lot going on in both directions there. But, yeah, I think, Kreider certainly should have seen a little bit more for that dangerous shove in the back.
Yeah, although I guess on a night where the Kraken were dealing with other things, nobody was going to let the game get out of hand. The officials didn't need to manage it. There was an interesting question from Absurdly Sane earlier, RJ, about the idea of, with a situation like that, is there a way for an NHL team to basically file a protest with the league around the officiating, or at least file some sort of complaint with the league after a game like this? It's kind of similar to baseball.
Yeah, I don't believe there is. I've never seen it. Of course, the league is going to take a look at any play, whether it was called or missed or anything. The Department of Player Safety is going to take a look at that shove from Chris Kreider, or you would think they would. In a perfect world, they would take a look at it. But yeah, I mean, they look at everything. So they're going to look at that, see if it warrants any kind of additional discipline. At worst, it's going to be a fine because the Department of Player Safety is the way it is. But yeah, that's kind of the process for it. There really is no formal complaint process that I've seen. When teams are particularly upset about something like that, what I've seen is usually the coach or the GM makes a comment letting the league know, and they get fined for it. And so that's, how it usually goes.
Yeah, that's what I said too. All right. We're back to only scoring one goal, RJ. Let's kind of shift over to this issue. I know if there was something positive, RJ, to talk about, I would want to talk about it with you. We're back to only scoring one goal. They go 0-3 on the power play, and worst of all, they can't even get shots off. 2 shots on goal that entire second period. I thought the team kind of just lacked life. I mean, there was just nothing going on for them in that second period and the first half of the third period. What does this team need, RJ? Do they need somebody who's physical, who can go in and bang somebody around? Do they just need an energy guy? People are saying bring up Shane Wright, like get some youth into the lineup. I mean, what is the answer?
I mean, I don't think he's going to solve all the problems. I don't even think he's going to solve most of the problems, but I would like to see John Hayden get into the lineup here. I think that's going to help you, first of all, just having a guy like that in case another game like this happens. That's the start. I do think the Kraken need a game where the momentum isn't interrupted in the way that it was in this one. And I don't want to use it as an excuse. Of course, the players didn't. But I think the Kraken are a team that probably needs that momentum to build a little bit more than other teams. So that's a start. As far as scoring goals, we were kind of dumbfounded after 4 games, right, with the finishing. The finishing is what it is. And, I thought Jonathan Quick, generally a pretty beatable goalie, but he made him look pretty good tonight.
Yeah, there's a ton of background noise. Can you maybe like move your setup a little
Yeah, there's a
further?
large crowd behind me here.
Yeah.
Got some-
Um, so I don't know if you can move it or not if you're kind of locked into where you're at. Yeah, I mean, I talked about like in at least those previous games, the Kraken were generating a lot of shot attempts. They were generating a lot of shots on goal. It felt like, okay, it's a matter of time, things will start going in. This one, you don't have that to fall back on, right? Like you just got outplayed, period. There's no way to get around that. Um, oh man, RJ, there's just I mean, there's so much. And so much of this is just the comment section has just been that kind of stuff. Lindsay, I'm telling y'all, CPA is haunted. RJ's got to get a salt circle going or something before the next homestand. You're
It
gonna
was
have a time.
haunted tonight. I will tell you, confirmed. Absolutely, was definitely haunted tonight. Although Dylan, this was technically the Halloween game. This was like the closest home game before Halloween. I did see a few people out there in Halloween costumes at this game, so maybe that's what it was.
Yeah, no, I mean maybe. Ricky, they have nothing to learn at that level, referring to like Riker Evans and Shane Wright playing at Coachella Valley. Let them learn like Bedard, Fantilli, and their contemporaries are doing. I mean, there is a big push, RJ, on Twitter, on Discord, on the comment section here for those young guys to be brought up because hey, look, it was another bad game from the Schultz Dumoulin pair. Like really bad game from the Schultz Dumoulin pair.
Because I thought they started well. I thought they had
They
a pretty
did.
first period.
Yeah, I thought this was. I went on the record earlier. I said this was the worst defensive game I've ever seen Matty Beniers play, and that includes at college. I something does need to change with this lineup. Something more substantial than what we've seen. I know Berkey being out now is going to lead to something, but does it need more?
Yeah, I mean, when we talk about like calling up a Shane Wright or a Riker Evans, I personally I don't want to bring Shane Wright into this situation as it is right now. Where the team is kind of floundering, trying to find answers, and putting that on him as he's got to be the answer. I'm sorry, I don't want that for Shane Wright. Even though it might help the team in the short term, I don't think it's worth it for his development in the long term. I think the plan must have been to start him off at Coachella Valley, give him some runway, and let him build some confidence. You do not want to mess with that. Whatever you do, don't panic, don't mess with that. Riker Evans is another story. I think given the way the Dumoulin Schultz pair has played, I think you can make an argument to scratch, Brian Dumoulin, or heck, even I know, you talked to me the other day about maybe Will Borgen being someone to scratch to get Riker Evans in the lineup. I wouldn't mind that. I think Riker Evans has had a full season of the AHL under his belt. He's ready to come up and potentially play NHL games. That I wouldn't mind, but I think the Kraken should not call up Shane Wright just yet.
I'm with you, and I think you got to take advantage of the fact that you have the ability to call up a Cole Lynn to John Hayden and send them back down in a little bit of time with the whole waiver situation as well. Lindsay, got to win 3 out of 4 on this road trip to give me confidence in this team again. Otherwise, could be over before November even begins. I mean, we were talking back to season 1, RJ, with the whole out of it by Thanksgiving, really out of it by New Year's. I mean, I kind of see where Lindsay's coming from. Just getting to November right now feels almost impossible.
Well, I mean, if the results continue to be like this, then, yeah, that's the place that it leads. I do think this team has a much better chance of turning it around. They've got a lot more talent, as we know, than what that year 1 team had. But, yeah, I mean, they have to turn things around soon. They've got to figure out the finishing. They've got to figure out the power play. I mean, it's difficult. I think the schedule, if it gets a little bit easier, that can help. Playing against some teams that, although Detroit looks pretty good right now, but starting to play against some teams that maybe aren't playoff teams. You look at who the Kraken were for most of the second half of last season, to cut the playoffs out, but you take January on, and it took care of business against bad teams, and they just could not beat playoff teams. And you know what? The Kraken, I mean, they're one win. They took care of business against a bad team. I'm sorry, the Hurricanes were down Svechnikov, they were down Svechnikov, they were down their starting goalie, and the Kraken took care of business. Rangers, tonight, bona fide playoff team. I think, maybe this schedule needs to lighten up a little bit too.
Yeah. Everybody in here, Michael, screw their plans. Their plans aren't working. More than that, they've been terrible plans. Terrible. Pablo saying yes, but think of the confidence level. Ricky, Riker's played almost 100 AHL games. Enough already? And then Maddie, someone get RJ AirPods. To deal with the background. I mean, you could take a step closer again. You kind of stepped back.
Yeah, sorry. I guess I did kind of back up a little bit.
Yeah.
There. Yeah. There was a big group of Rangers fans that were like right behind me by the elevators. I think that was some of the background. Also, the Zamboni was going, but still, that usually doesn't cause that bad of a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a lot of background noise. Do McCann and Trocheck have beef since their time together in Florida? Were they competing for the same spot? That's from Yukim. That's a good question. I wonder.
Yeah,
Were they there together?
again, not really familiar with their time together in Florida. I know they were former teammates there. They probably were competing for spots. But I think on this one, it was pretty clearly just that hit on Dumoulin. And when I asked Tanner about it too, he immediately said, it was hit on Dumo. It was clearly that.
Yeah. I do think that now, one thing that was talked about earlier was if Dumoulin is a little banged up right now, you can kind of use that as an excuse, sit him for a couple games, see if he can reset, bring in Magna at the very least, right? You don't need to call up Riker. You could just bring in Magna and see if that works. Do you think we might see something like that? I know I'm kind of putting you on a limb there.
No, I think it's possible. I mean, it depends how bad Dumoulin's shaken up. I am surprised that he stayed on the bench. I don't know. Did he take shifts after that? Did he come back to the game? Do you remember?
He did come back for one shift
Oh,
at
he
late.
did. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, just given that hit, I thought he was going to head into the tunnel. He was really slow to get up. I'm sure they showed it on the broadcast. But yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, heck, you look Jaden Schwartz. He played a shift, after getting hurt in the last game, then left for the rest of the game, and that stuff could be dicey. He did play tonight, but you could tell he wasn't 100%.
Yeah. Michael, even if you don't bring up Shane, the echo.
The echo's back. Great.
Yep. I can't talk.
Pledge is haunted. Yep. Here, I can mute.
There we go. Even if you don't bring up Shane, it's time for Riker. 0 players not named Dunn playing better than Riker Evans right now. I would say Adam Larson. The fact that we don't mention Adam Larson ever means as a defenseman, he's doing his job. That's what that means.
Yeah, definitely. I think Lars. I think had another solid game in this one, and like all season, he's kind of done his thing.
And then from CJ, so does Yamamoto move up to the second line now to replace Berkey? And then Maddie, what do you think the lines look like next game? Again, you'll have more information for everybody tomorrow, RJ, after practice or whatever the Kraken might be doing. But do you have kind of a feel for that right now, or just something you'd like to see?
It's hard to tell as far as what they're actually going to do, and especially with some of those other guys that are banged up as well, that we don't really know how they're doing. Sorry, I don't have more of a feel for that. Tomorrow is a travel day. They're going to Detroit. They'll have a practice at Little Caesars Arena on Monday. So that's probably when we'll get some more insight from the people who have traveled with the team. But we'll, of course, let you know all about that. We'll probably talk about it on the podcast. Since that'll be on Eastern time, we should be able to get ahead of that. As far as what I'd like to see, kind of the same thing that I had been talking about a couple post-game lives ago, where you take Ty Karche, you put him on the first line, you move Jared McCann down to that second line, and you kind of bring the third line back to what it was. I guess that leaves open a winger spot still on the second line. Maybe you do move Yamamoto into that spot. I like what I've seen from him generally. So I guess, I would go Karche, Bediers, Eberle. I'd go McCann, Wenberg, and I guess Yamamoto, and then Tolvin and Gord Bjorkstrand, and then fourth line of whoever's left. Belmar,
Shore, and Hayden, I guess.
Yes, so.
That's a fourth line if I've ever heard of a fourth line, RJ.
Yeah. Going?
Well, no, yeah, the echo's gone for at least the moment, so we'll go with this. Hunter should have tanked last year instead of this year, lol. The draft class last year would have been better for it, not gonna lie. Although I'll take that playoff run. Yeah. Lindsay, I think with Berkey gone, we go Matteo Kart 7 line 1, Bjorky back with Tolvin and Gord, Schwartz, Wenny, off wing McCann, Hayden, Belly, Yams. That does work, although, yeah, you're missing
Schwartz off my line, so
yeah.
He's there. He seems okay. So
yeah, there you go.
Schwartz, McCann, Wenberg, something like that.
Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me if we see something like that either. I think that makes a lot of sense. B would like to see Cartier and or Yamamoto brought up in the lineup some. Karts in particular was one of the only players tonight I thought was putting in a consistent effort. He doesn't know how not to, really, is the thing, right? Like, he's just one of those guys. Let's see. Gary, win or lose, I love this team. That's from Pablo. Gary, yes, reminding everybody to like the stream. Appreciate it, Gary. Definitely want to thank all 95 of you for still being in this stream. We're 50 minutes in, getting towards the end. It was a rough game. Know how that is. Saturday night too, right? I get it. Thank you all for being here. with us. Coop with Huskies. So does that mean the Huskies coming back?
Yeah,
Or is it just a one-game thing?
Huskies.
Coming back?
Yeah, Huskies.
Can't just say that, Coop. Got to give me more.
Have that game on one of the screens up in the press bridge. There were plenty of Huskies fans following that one.
I was gonna say, got to give me more than that, Coop. I need to know.
Yeah, also,
Michael,
it was interesting. Joey DeCord, he definitely seemed kind of invested in that. Actually, I hear that Sparky, the mascot for ASU, was here at Climate Pledge earlier today. And I also hear that Joey may have made a bet with someone on the team staff to maybe wear, the opposing or the winning team's, jersey or shirt or something like that.
there you go. There you go. See, that's why you all hang in here 50 minutes after a rough game like that for the post game live. Get that kind of stuff. That is a lot of fun. All right, so let's see here. Going to be waiting for scoring and finishers until Calabrini or Eiserman hit the Kraken roster. And dear God, I hope this crazy sentence I'm writing isn't true from Michael. I don't think it will be true. Yeah, I don't think it'll come.
Yeah, I think. Oh, is it bad? I think we're going to be looking at further down the line this season, and the talk of the draft lottery will kind of sound ridiculous.
Yeah. Good night, Pablo. There, see you there. Hunter, don't worry about being a downer. I still love you too, and I don't think you're being a downer after tonight. It'd be hard to be a downer any more than anybody else. Sarah, I was at CPA and there were a few "Let's Go Cartier" chants when he was on the ice. Yeah, that's a good question, RJ. What was the crowd like tonight? Because it's still early on in the season. Everybody's still excited for their team. They're coming off a win, but it was an interesting game between the lights and the delayed start, and then the performance of the team.
I think the lights and everything that came with it also messed with the crowd. I think it didn't just mess with the players. It did kind of throw off momentum a little bit. And I think it had that effect. There were a lot of Rangers fans in the crowd. There were a lot. They travel really well. There were a few "Let's Go Rangers" chants that were getting started toward the end of the game, usually drowned out by some boos. But yeah, a lot of Rangers fans in the building. But overall, pretty good crowd. It's just, again, with the momentum changes and, it's easy for, up in the press box when you're having like updates given to you and you're checking Twitter all the time, you know exactly what's happening, to kind of stay in the loop with something like that, where the game's like a minute old and then the players just stopped playing and skating around. Whereas I think a lot of the crowd maybe wasn't sure what was happening. And the announcements were also kind of vague. They're just like, they're switching sides because of the lights, or we've stopped play because of the light, where maybe you don't notice anything out of the ordinary usually if you don't go to all the games. So I think it just kind of messed with the crowd vibe of the crowd.
Let's see. Well, good. Thank you for the update, Coop. So Huskies are in the lead. Rebecca, the CPA poltergeist. Hunter, we need to burn some sage in the locker room. It's definitely not the worst idea there is. Let's see. Maddie with the AirPods. Yes, we tested this pregame and it worked, so we were ready to go. But we do have a backup plan that I guess we're going to have to shift to for the next home game, which will be in a little while. So I guess we'll have time to refine it. But yes, apologies again. No idea why this. We've done this for 2.5 years now. Never had this problem.
Never had this issue, and it was fixed earlier today. I don't know. We got to call Todd Lywicki in here to get on the phone and try and fix it.
That was awesome. Him up in the catwalk. That was awesome.
That was absolutely awesome. We're like trying to figure out the lights thing, and we all look up in the media. We just see Todd Lywicki coming in there on his phone, talking to people, trying to sort things out, and that is some hands-on leadership. Love to see it.
Definitely. Tati, game wasn't what we wanted, of course, but love the post games. Always a pep up with the community here. Definitely. Thank you so much for being here, Tati. Thanks everybody for being here. Next time the lights freak out, just call it from Becca. It wouldn't be the worst idea. And Maddie asking, did the lights ever get fixed?
No. Let me check on them right now. No, they're, let's see, which side was it on?
It would be the side you're on.
Yeah, it'd be the side I'm on. No, it looks like it's still out. Never got fixed.
Yep. The ghost of CPA messing with RJ now. Steal some salt from the press box for your safety, RJ, from Lindsay.
It's the shitty assault and the chicken tenders that we had for intermission.
Yes,
that was the weirdest thing, and I put that in the Discord. There were still chicken tenders left at the end of the second intermission. That never, ever happens. So just weird night all around.
After that second period, would you have an appetite, RJ?
No. I didn't. I realized I was just like, forget this.
That's the answer right there. We'll do this one as the last one, Coop. I think this team needs Jagger Firkus, absolute sniper. I mean, look, he would bring some finishing, when he wasn't like laid out, RJ, because he's like 100 pounds too light to be playing right now.
I know he would not have fared well in this game, just given all the physicality. But you know what? We talked about it on the last deep dive, or 2 deep dives ago. Are the Kraken 2 built for the playoffs? Do they have enough players that are just really good at one thing? Jagger Furcus is really, really good at one thing.
Yep.
And that is scoring goals. So, you know
Yep.
what? Maybe he'd help.
Up to 10 on the young year at his first hat trick of the season. Moose Jaw tonight. So good stuff there. Thank you all for joining us for this one. Again, we'll work on the audio things. Hopefully the Kraken work on their stuff. CPA will work on the lights. But the one place that doesn't need to work on anything is Flat Stick Pub, because it's the place to be. They've got everything going on. Like I said, I mean, these promotions are killer at that South Lake Union location. Go get your $1 off beer after the game, show your ticket, 50% off games beforehand. And again, I was talking about this earlier, RJ. Blacklight mini golf. Got to make it happen, right?
Yeah.
That sounds incredible.
Yes, absolutely. Dylan, you are killing it with these promos. But yeah, Flat Stick Pub, guarantee all the lights are working. It's not cursed.
Yes.
Tagline.
Yes, that's their new tagline at Flat Stick Pub. All their locations not cursed like CPA. That should be what they go with from now on. Oh man, thanks everybody for joining us for this one. Thanks to Flat Stick Pub for sponsoring us like always, and we will catch you all after that next game.